Okay, thank you for joining us. Welcome to Turndog Talks To. I'm with Jocy Hunter today of Belmont Baby, and I'm delighted to have her with me. Thank you very much for joining me today, Jocy, on your lunch break.
You're welcome.
So Jocy is part of the team of my local council, so I've got to know her fairly well in recent weeks, and she's very kindly offered to offer her insight for the successful mistake. So, Jocy, thank you. And please, let's start this off by telling me who you are and what it is that you do.
Right, well, in my day job, as you said, I work for the council running a business-to-business mentoring scheme. But in the spare time that I have, I've been looking at starting up my own business and started going down the process of designing baby products for a company called Belmont Baby, which is me and my husband. Yeah.
Fantastic. So that must, I mean, that's something close to my heart at the minute because I'm an expecting dad, so...
Oh, you, congratulations, I never knew that.
Ah, that's what you knew, but yeah, there we go. So obviously anything baby related at the minute, I'm very much immersed into that world, and I'm, because you're a mother with young kids. So
yeah, my little boy's 2 years old.
I'm guessing he was the inspiration. Yes, absolutely. I can imagine. So, how long have you been doing this for?
It came about when I was on maternity leave. And it was around February 2011 that we started going, oh, why hasn't someone done this before? And it's not on the market, shall we do it? Kind of thing.
Well, you are the first mumpreneur, I believe it is. I think you're the first one I've talked to, and it's a growing trend, and people are getting their hands dirty when they're on maternity leave. So it's fantastic to see. And you're still very new.
Yes.
Process. You're still in the research and development stage, so I think your insight today will be fantastic. I think you'll offer some really great insights into some mistakes that you've made and how you've overcome to get to the next step. So I would like you to just kind of think back to one of the mistakes that you've made in your very young and infant-like journey, and tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I suppose one of the things that the mistake that I've made and learnt the most from is when I entered a competition with Sheffield Hallam University. One of the prizes for being a finalist was to pitch your product at an investment forum. So I was given a date to prepare for. It was all very exciting. Looking back now, I wasn't prepared enough. My product hadn't gone forward enough to answer a lot of the questions that the investors and things like that wanted to know.
Was it very Dragon's Den-like?
No, actually it was very supportive. I was really surprised. People were lovely, and I did have to admit a lot that I didn't know some of the answers and that I was very new at this and we were only in the early stages. So I definitely learned what questions investors want to ask you from that experience, but it was a case of I probably should have listened to my instincts and done it at a later stage when I felt more ready and prepared and had more research and development done.
So what kind of questions were they asking that left you a bit stumped?
It was all about the manufacturing process, especially around the pricing. What I found is, obviously I don't know anything about manufacturing. Designing a product, I've managed to get that so far, but finding tooling, finding manufacturers, getting costs, shipping costs, designing packaging, cardboard engineering to make sure your product's safe when it's being shipped from another country.
Of course.
All of this, and then it was price point. So are you going through a distributor? Are you distributing yourself? Which stores are you going to target? What's their markup compared to yours? So and some of them I could answer, and some of that I've learned a lot more about now, but I didn't have all the answers at all.
It's amazing the in-depth of just even the smallest products, and when you start to unearth it and unravel all the different strings and angles, it becomes a bit of a mammoth task.
It is, and there isn't necessarily anywhere for you to go to find that information. So I wouldn't have known that until I made that mistake.
I think this is a common trend that a lot of young entrepreneurs, particularly because it happens to any number of new entrepreneurs, no matter what their age, but I think when you're younger especially, you've not had the world experience, as we may say. And there's certain things that you pick up in life as you go along, and there's a lot of people I especially meet who are young, they're maybe 17, 18 years of age, got a fantastic idea and they just don't quite appreciate the depth
Yeah.
With what comes with it.
It's that next stage. It seems to be, my experience has been, great idea, someone will talk to you once you've got to a certain stage, but how you get to that stage is really hard.
Yeah.
There isn't anything around at the moment unless you're talking one-to-one with someone with that experience. Hence the reason why I'm so passionate about business-to-business mentoring, because that is the only way you can get that information through. And
obviously this is a day job, and it's something that I'm involved. I'm both a mentee and a mentor at the minute. So it is, and I see a massive amount of value in speaking to someone who has been there and done it. You can go to them with a problem and they usually have a very simple answer.
Yeah.
Whereas you can search for hours online and just usually confuddle yourself a little bit more.
Yes, definitely.
So what kind of impact did it have on your business? When was this? Was it a year ago, 2 years ago?
This was in March this year.
So about 6 months ago?
Yeah.
7 months ago.
It was quite a big impact because we did end up, we've been in consultation with a few investors interested in the product and helping us take it forward. So from that, it was successful. In fact, we've started down there. However, because we didn't have all that information, we've had a delay. So we haven't been able to move the business and the product forward for months because we've been waiting on other people, and obviously investors want to do their due diligence, so they were out doing some research. So for a while we didn't actually do anything on the business, and when we decided that the options we were presented with initially wasn't a way forward for us, and we started talking to somebody else, we're now having to repeat the same process again. Yeah. So it takes its toll on you time-wise, financially, because you're still covering payments and you're still having to register designs to make sure that you're protected when you speak to all these investors and making sure everything's done. And emotionally, it's as the activity on the business has dwindled, so has my confidence.
Yeah, well,
it's really knocked me.
That's something which I want to discuss with you, because I know personally, if I'm not doing something, I feel quite lazy, like I should be doing something. And obviously you'll have been working hard for months, and all of a sudden you've hit this lull.
Yes.
And I'm guessing you want to do work, and you go home at night and you twiddle your thumbs and you think, there's actually nothing I can really do right now. I'm waiting from other people. How has that affected you? I mean, confidence-wise and trust in other people and your product?
I think it's definitely one thing that I've noticed is usually when I'm doing any work, being cheeky is something that you have to be, because the worst anybody can say is no.
That's true.
But this is not my confidence that much that I'm not being as cheeky with my business as I would be, say, on my business-to-business mentoring.
Right. Why would you say that is?
Because if it's knocking my confidence, now I think, well, do I know enough about it? Is my product good enough now? And am I ever actually going to get to the point where I'm going to be able to bring it to market? So I'm doubting myself after because you got lots and lots of great feedback, and then a little knock, and same as life, you concentrate on the negative, and that's what makes the biggest impact.
And I think this is, again, something that many entrepreneurs go through, because the entrepreneurial spirit is like your confidence with yourself. You've got this outer shell, you're very bubbly, but that doesn't always tell the full story from underneath.
Yeah,
and I feel
absolutely.
like some people are just confident.
Yeah.
And they are excited and bubbly, and they just believe in themselves 24/7, 110%. But most people are human. And they do have that self-doubt, and they do have that time when you just sit there and go, am I good enough? Am I a hack?
Yeah.
Is what I'm doing right? Is it going to be a success? So how have you been dealing with it?
My husband, bless him, his ears are probably bleeding from me talking about it. I've also got myself my own mentor.
Right.
So that's helped, and I've actually been networking a bit more, and people have been giving me recommendations. And what's happened is I've followed up on them recommendations instead of just thinking, oh, I'll leave it for a bit.
Yeah.
And this week I've ended up having a fantastic meeting with somebody who we could potentially have an opportunity through, and one of my investors that I am still interested in their offer that I hadn't heard from in a long time has emailed me to meet up again because he's been away. So I'm going back up again now. So you kind of just have to pick yourself up and carry on, really.
I suppose it comes down to having faith in the process that you've built. If you put fires out, if you put the stoke in the fire, you never know when they may or may not
Yeah.
come to fruition. It might be, you know, weeks, months, years sometimes down the line. I've heard stories of people having that surprise call from someone they met at a networking
Yeah.
event 2 years back, and they come and turn out to be quite a big client. So.
I've had there were two particular things that made me think, actually just stop worrying about it and carry on. There's a lady who launched a product on the market, and I was reading her story, and it's another baby product, another mum who had a gap in the market, and I think her product's absolutely brilliant. And I read it, and she said it took 4 years to get this to market.
Yeah.
And I could think, oh, that's all right then. The fact that it's been 1.5 years, isn't that out of the ordinary?
Yeah.
That's actually okay. And it was like, oh, thank God for that.
I was actually speaking to someone just, I think yesterday or the day before, and they said, you know, you hear about all these overnight successes, but then when you actually speak to the person, you find out this overnight success was 10 years in the making.
Exactly.
So to the public, it's an overnight success, but in the real world, it's actually been months and years and sometimes decades of very hard work. So yeah.
But the worst thing I think for me was someone said, if you didn't go ahead and you walked in one day and saw your product or something like it on the supermarket shelves, how would you feel?
Yeah.
And I actually got that horrible churning feeling of, actually I need to, at least if I've tried and tried and tried to a point where actually this isn't going to go any further, then fine. But if I've given up before I've actually seen it through, I don't think I'd be very happy with myself.
Absolutely. So you went to this, you did this competition. You a little bit premature. You tried to run maybe before you'd learned how to walk. So what have you learned from it? What have you learned from that particular mistake to now send you down a nice path, hopefully, in the future?
I didn't know I knew that many manufacturing terms as I do now. The meeting I had this week, I've had some meetings in the past couple of weeks talking about manufacturing and pricing and things, and I was actually able to hold my own because I'd been having all these conversations. I've actually been on a big learning curve without realising it. I mean, there's some bits still missing that I'm still trying to learn, but the most thing is you can't do it on your own. You've got to have people to talk to, people to guide you, people just to, when you're having a bit of a lull, go, oh, this isn't working, I need to get this sorted. But having that network of support around you, so you're not on your own, you're not isolated, and you don't feel as though you're never going to be able to do it. I think that's the most important thing that's come from it for me.
Fantastic. Okay, well, we're edging toward the end. So if you could offer some advice to a new entrepreneur, someone who's got that amazing idea and now they want to go ahead, what piece of advice would you offer?
I actually got this advice I got on Tuesday morning from somebody who's an entrepreneur, and he said, be cheeky.
Yeah.
He said, you'll be surprised at what being cheeky gets you. And some people actually, I bet Richard Branson's cheeky.
So I'm sure he is.
Yeah, I think most of the most successful entrepreneurs are a little bit cheeky.
So it's a case of just asking the question.
Yeah, absolutely.
And having a bit of guts.
Yeah.
And I'm also intrigued because there'll be many people watching this who they have that grand idea. Sometimes an idea you don't need investors. You can do it from savings or you can do it as you go along. But some products, they do need tens, sometimes hundreds of thousands of investment in just to get to market. So to those people who have bigger ideas, what advice would you offer them with regards to investors, approaching them, interacting with them? What kind of thing can a new entrepreneur expect to see?
Yeah, the first thing, you've got to be very prepared. You've got to have had kind of insider advice and guidance from somebody who's already in that area to know all of your pricing, all of your fixtures. The other thing is be honest. If you don't know something, they're not probably going to stop talking to you because you don't know anything. But I suppose the one thing that I've learned is you've got to go with your gut feeling. Even if you're talking to somebody and it sounds fantastic but your gut's telling you no, there's probably a reason.
So stick with your gut, and if that person just seems too good to be true,
yeah, they may just be. Yeah.
Question it. Yeah. Fantastic. And I suppose you're obviously a huge advocate of the mentoring system.
Absolutely.
Being that's what you're in charge of. Do you think it is something that all entrepreneurs, young or old, should kind of try and get involved in? Or?
Yeah, I think you should be involved. You probably are doing it. If you're an entrepreneur and you're successful, if you look back, you've probably been doing it informally with somebody anyway.
Yeah.
So, and you don't need to necessarily have a mentor that's in that business. They can be completely separate from that business. It's just having somebody to talk with on a regular basis who's going to be able to help you focus.
And sometimes it's just like you've been saying with your husband, just to talk it out.
Absolutely,
If you keep it all inside, you can drag yourself inside.
Yeah, and it can have a big knock-on impact.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking. I hope that the people who have watched this video have learned something. I'm sure they have. It is a very tricky world when you're dealing with investors, and it's certainly when it's a big product, when it's involved with babies, people are very cautious.
Of course
There's a lot of steps to go through, but it sounds like you're making fantastic progress. I wish you all the luck, and hopefully you've shared some fine words with the listeners. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Cheers.